And the judge overseeing the Charlie Kirk murder trial ordering the release of a redacted transcript and audio of a closed-door hearing with Kirk's accused assassin. Alexis McAdams is joining us live with more on the judge's decision. Alexis?
Hi, Bill. So Tyler Robinson's lawyers, really, it comes down to this. They want to limit media access to this case because there's going to be a lot of attention on it. So they're asking for a long list of things. But the key is they wanted to keep those requests top secret because it happened behind closed doors. But a judge has ruled that they are going to release parts of this redacted copy. So take a look here. This is what we're learning from what we learned yesterday with these releases. The partially redacted transcript from a closed-door hearing in October said the court must be transparent here. So they say this.
This case generates extraordinary ongoing national and international attention, some of which is threatening in nature to the parties, their representatives, and non-party participants. The safety and well-being of all involved in this matter outweighs the interests of the public that are served by open court records.
So the October hearing focused on courtroom security measures, and the unsealed transcript shows Robinson's defense team asked if he could just appear in court without shackles and just wear his own clothing instead of a jail jumpsuit, which has happened in other recent cases like Luigi Mangione. It would allow civilian clothes, the judge says, but Robinson must be handcuffed during court appearances. So yesterday's hearings did not address Robinson's lawyer's request, though, to ban all cameras in court to prevent media images that they say could impact the jury and the murder trial. The judge hasn't decided on whether the trial will be broadcast, but Charlie Kirk's widow, Erica Kirk, says, telling Fox earlier this month, that the world should have to see and be able to see what happens in this case.
I have zero desire to look at that man on camera. When the trial starts, it's a whole different ballgame. I believe we strongly need to have cameras in the courtroom.
So the audio recording of the October closed-door hearing is going to be available in about 2 weeks. That's when we can actually hear what happened. But basically the requests were, again, just don't have him in a jail jumpsuit, and they don't want cameras inside. His next hearing, Bill, is in January. That's when we could find out more about what the judge decides. But it's interesting to hear him say we got to have more transparency here.
Yeah, and we'll stand by and wait until we get the audio of that transcript.
Right.
Alexis McAdams live in New York. Alexis, thank you.
Thanks.
Molly?
For more on this, we bring in Fox News contributor Paul Mauro. Thank you for being here on this cusp of a new year. We appreciate your insights. Starting with what's happening with this judge in the Tyler Robinson case, it seems like he's trying to allow the sunlight, has some respect for the Sixth Amendment, the First Amendment, but also some security concerns. He knows there are threats. There's a lot of attention here. Take one more listen to what the judge had to say as he's weighing all of these concerns.
The court need not seal the entire transcript and audio of the October 24th, 2025 hearing to protect the safety interests of all those involved. Redacting selective portions of the transcript and the audio that reference security measures will serve safety interests while allowing for as much public access to the remainder of the record as possible.
He's weighing these concerns so heavily now, and we have yet to know if we'll have cameras in the courtroom for the actual trial. Your thoughts on how the judge is handling things?
I mean, so far he seems to be quite deliberative. He's trying to take all the equities in play. He's being very transparent with his own reasoning. He's laying it out because, look, in the courtroom, anybody who's been in a courtroom dealing with a judge, they have what's called plenary power. They run the show. He can just give a statement, and that's it. He's making sure he's telegraphing to everybody, I'm considering your concerns. He's very aware, clearly, of all the scrutiny that's on this case. I was out there, you know, you could feel it. There's all the media there, et cetera. There's another player in this, though, aside from the two sides of the case, is the media. And the media is who's pulling at this and wants the transcript, wants the audio. That's a consideration the judge has to take into account here as well. And so he's making it clear that he's going to do everything he can to thread this needle to make sure the case holds up on appeal, that it's a fair hearing for Tyler Robinson, that the public gets to hear as much of this as he can do. I think all of this augurs that he is going to allow cameras in the courtroom to some degree. It may be a proscribed feed that only captures certain areas. You've got to make sure you don't see the jurors, et cetera. And there's actually an internal sort of tension in this already, because he has said that Tyler Robinson can appear in street clothes, but shackled. But at the same time, he has said you can't show him shackled. So the media is going to have to thread that needle, because if he's shackled below, he goes to scratch his face, you got to make sure you cut the feed. So there are all these things blowing through this, and it's the judge's job to make sure this whole three-ring circus goes smoothly.
Yeah, his attorney's arguing for one hand free to take notes, all sorts of things still in the works in that case. There's another case pretty heartbreaking out of Texas right now, a young woman who went missing on Christmas Eve. Her family very grieving, very worried. Her name is Camila Mendoza Olmos. She's only 19 years old. A very strange case. She was last spotted out by her car. She disappears, leaves her cell phone, her iPad behind, and now the Mexican authorities are also involved in this case. Your thoughts?
Yeah, troubling. And the fact that the top investigator here, the sheriff down there, has said that she may be in quote-unquote imminent danger. The fact that he would make that statement tells me that he may have something that we're not getting told quite now. And the fact that he's dealt in the Mexican authorities already argues that there may be some indicia that she's gone across the border. It's a bad break that she doesn't have her phone on her, because that would have been one of the ways you can track her. Now, I can guarantee you they're going at that phone hard. As I said last night, one of the things you do in a case like this is, as a detective, you're essentially trying to teleport yourself backwards in time. You want to contextualize her life. Did she have an argument with somebody? Did she have a stalker? If somebody actually took her, and we hope that's not the case, we hope there's something a lot more benign, but if in fact it's a kidnapping, then it argues that likely that person was scoping her out. They're rare. They do happen, but it's rare that it was spontaneous. So, is there some indicia of who was stalking her? Online, in person? Did she mention anything to anybody? Is there anything on her phone, in her computer, for her friends? You have to go out and you have to relive her life in the time leading up to the disappearance and hope that somebody can say, hey, you know what, she mentioned something, or you see somebody who doesn't quite fit hitting her social media, for instance. A lot of that is deep digital work. It's a lot of grind work. It's going to take a lot of time, and you hope here that time is on your side, because with every day, it's more concerning.
Our hearts go out to her family. Her aunt was on Fox and Friends this morning. Just take a little listen. Her family going through so much right now.
We feel as a family that she's in danger because she disappeared, has a breath. And there's nothing that we can do to find her. We've been knocking doors. The police officer, they've been helping us knocking door by door. There's some people that they don't open the doors. We asking the community to please open the doors, check the cameras.
Check the cameras, open the doors. Her family is being so proactive. These pictures, your thoughts on how the family is doing and making these moves?
You know, we're seeing this in more and more cases, right? We saw it up in Brown. We saw it in the Tyler Robinson case, the appeal to the public for their Ring cameras and other cameras, dashboard cameras. This case already has one of those. The public could be very key here. It also does show you, though, the dangers of a porous border if, in fact, the border is involved. So this would be a very bold and surprising move if, in fact, it is a cross-border incident. I hope just that, you know, if it was a cross-border incident, it happened where there are cameras, because there are cameras at the border as well, and that somebody, whether it's the authorities or somebody in private life, pick something up. We know what she looked like. I'd like to see them release some images. There's apparently a dashboard image of what she actually looked like, what she was wearing. It may spark something in somebody's head, but right now it sounds like they need the public.
Yeah, they think that dark clothing might have been caught on a car driving by.
Right.
Paul Mauro, thank you very much. We
Thank you,
greatly
Paul.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.